So, Andrew, thank you for participating in this interview. It's a task for my English class, so I need to somehow required to record it in order to send it. So, would you mind if I continue recording our conversation?
No problem.
Okay, great, thank you for that. So, I would like, as a person who is professional in the leisure industry, I would like to know what inspired you to start a career in the leisure industry?
I would say I more ended up in it. I originally, when I went to university, I went to study product design, so it's completely different. I mean, still kind of creative and creating things and projects and whatnot, but yeah, that was where I started with because I was interested in that, and then I moved to Berlin, and I ended up again just more out of situation. I worked more in kind of facilities and operations, and then ended up in a hotel. So the kind of the leisure industry professional thing is for me. I've just kind of ended up in this kind of leisure field, and it's always been part of what I've done. I've always worked in attractions and leisure related things, but yeah, it wasn't a kind of decision. I've just kind of found my way there.
Yeah, like going through different phases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what are you doing right now? What kind of job do you have besides being a lecturer at BUAS?
That is my job at the moment, really.
Yeah,
Just being a lecturer because it's a full-time position.
Yeah, and can you think about your previous jobs?
Previous to, before lecturing at BUAS, I lectured at Stenden up in northern Netherlands, and that was in a hotel school. And the reason I worked there was because of the hotel background. Because I was in Berlin, I was working as a hotel manager for about 10 years, and also arranging events within the hotel and things like that. Previous to that, when I was a student, when growing up as well, first jobs were all in working in museums and working in attractions.
Could you tell me which one of your working position had the biggest influence on you, and which you will definitely remember for a long time?
Weirdly, I mean, I spent a lot of time obviously as a hotel manager for 10 years, so that was a big thing, but the one that always comes back to me is when I was a placement student for a year. It was a packaging company, so again, nothing completely different. But the things I learned there were a lot about what it's like to sort of actually work in an industry and to pick up the sort of values of that particular industry, even if it's got nothing to do with where you imagined you'd be or what you thought you'd be doing, and also this sort of work ethic of, the one thing I really learned was this idea that people always clear their desks at the end of the week. So if suddenly on Friday you're getting all these inquiries in and things you need to do, you just have to go, actually it's fine, because someone else is trying to clear their desk, and you just need to kind of either clear things off yours or just accept that.
Yeah, you have to be paying attention to other people also. What are the tasks that you mainly have to do then when you did this particular job?
In that particular job, that was I was designing packaging. But not exciting packaging. It was all brown boxes and wooden crates. It was kind of strange. It was all sort of transport packaging. But I also had to do estimating as well, so coming up with prices for clients and specifying things. So it was a lot about obviously accuracy was really important, and we would make specifications, and then they would go literally to the factory at the back, and they would be made. So we had a lot to deal with the people who were actually making these packages, and we could go and see them do it, and they could ask us questions about it. So.
And did you meet any difficulties while doing your work?
In that job or just in general?
Maybe in general, yeah. What working in the leisure industry could be hard sometimes, so maybe you have met some difficulties?
I think the main thing, and especially related to leisure, is this idea that you have to balance kind of you balance what your vision of what you want to achieve, and you've got a client's vision, and maybe the client doesn't really know what they want. A lot of the time, they don't know what they want, or they're very specific, and it ruins your creativity. But also you have your customers as well, and the customers what they want. So it's that, for me, it's that balance between trying to get everything in balance, because getting two things in balance isn't too bad. Getting three things is suddenly it's a 3D puzzle kind of thing. So yeah, managing expectations is the kind of thing. I think customers' expectations, guests' expectations, your own expectations as well.
How did you manage to find this balance between?
I don't know if you always can, but I think it's a lot to do with communication, being able to communicate clearly. Doesn't always have to be kind of a written or verbal communication, but also just communicating your values through other non-verbal ways, and also making sure you're asking questions. Kind of have this thing I say where it's not about knowing all the answers, but it's knowing about which questions to ask, and yeah, so I think communication is the key to that.
Maybe giving feedback as well.
Which is obviously important.
We are learning about that.
Important part of communication is being able to give and receive feedback. Definitely. Also receiving feedback, not taking things too personally.
Know how are you doing and how can you improve yourself in some situations.
That was something I actually really learned in the hotel was I used to take bad reviews quite personally because it was quite a small hotel and I had a lot of input. So something that the owner of the hotel, I showed her this quite an unreasonable review once, and she said, "Oh, that person must be very sad, like to find such negativity in what is actually quite a nice space." And that was the first time I'd really sort of start thinking about it like that. Like actually, yeah, it's not a direct insult on me. It's processed quite a lot about that other person, that they're just very unhappy about something and they've taken it out and it's because of this, this, and this. But actually, there's probably a lot going on in someone's mind, and so it's unless we communicate that and we don't take things too personally, yeah, it's
strong in such situations.
Yeah.
And talking about the positive part of your job, what are the benefits of working in the leisure industry? Could you name some of them?
I think it's the fact that you're kind of making people happy. It's a nice thing. You know, people they're in their free time and they're at leisure. It's usually could be quite relaxing, and it's nice to be able to work with people like that. Again, in the hotel, the one thing that was something that always kept in the back of your mind was the fact that everybody, all the guests, they're on holiday. I mean, obviously you have business guests, but still they're just, most people, they're on holiday. So they already come in with this much more relaxed state of mind. And I think it's tapping into that and using the fact that people are relaxed, and you can also kind of, it gives you a chance to be kind of quite calm and at peace as well. Especially calm, obviously there's a lot to organise.
Maybe it depends on the event. Some are more dynamic for sure, but yeah, I definitely agree with that. But can you remember like a really meaningful experience you have created recently that made other people happy, and besides that, it made you happy?
I don't know about recently, but
maybe during your career.
Yeah, I mean certainly at the hotel it was about kind of just doing those like extra things that made people feel more at home, or made them feel like nothing was a problem. If they, often they would lose their luggage, and it was always the thing that, well, they wouldn't, the airline would lose their luggage, and they would come and they would really stressed out. They would arrive and they had no clothes, they had nothing to wash with, and it was just a case of like, well, it's going to be fine. They'll probably arrive tomorrow. It's usually very straightforward. It's very quick. But now let's put you at ease. And we'd obviously find them things like toothpaste and toothbrushes and all these things to sort of immediately make them happy, and then kind of say, okay, well, this is what we can do for you, and you always made them feel so much more at ease in what was a very stressful situation, like foreign country, nothing with you. But also, the other thing I liked to do was if someone mentioned that it was their birthday, or it was their husband's birthday, or it was an anniversary or something, then we'd always write a note of that, and always like leave them like a bottle of their champagne or something nice, and say like, happy anniversary or happy birthday. And it was just some comment they'd made, like a throwaway comment, "I'll come in for my husband's birthday," and then they'd forget about it because a couple of months later they turn up and it's our happy birthday. And they always used to appreciate that. So that was a really nice thing to do for people.
Yeah, I can imagine that because I worked in a hotel as well as a receptionist, and we did that to our guests as well. And you're feeling like you're involved in their experience, and that's pretty interesting. But what about being a lecturer at board? How are you feeling by doing this job?
I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's I think it's even easier now we're in this amazing campus. That's been such a difference now. Everything all together. For a lecturer's point of view, we can interact with the other academies, and we interact with people in the other academies so much easier because we just see them around, and have to kind of go around the campus all the time. So that's really nice. And obviously then just facilities generally. But also just from I like working with students because it's this kind of, all these new ideas are coming forward, and people from so many different backgrounds are all in one place. So you hear these different ideas all the time, and it becomes you have your own ideas and you have your own experience and everything, but then to get to use the kind of hive mind, if you want, of the entire class or groups of classes, you have this such more creativity with different ideas, and it's exciting because you kind of don't know where it's gonna go as well. So.
Yeah, it's nice. And what about your being a lecturer in the other universities? There a difference between like NHL and this one?
Definitely. In NHL Stenden, it was because it was the hotel school. It's a very popular school, and there was probably about 60% more students. So there's just huge numbers of students compared to here, and that meant that we had to kind of process the students a bit more, kind of like a factory, if you want. Or it's not as bad as that, but it felt more like you had to kind of we had to split the students up into kind of 4 units a year, and then each student did those 4 units but in a different order, which meant from a lecturer's point of view we taught the same unit 4 times, and then I had maybe 3 classes, so that's 12 times the same workshop for a year. Literally, and it has to be as similar as possible, because you don't want the person in the 3rd unit to not have the same experience as the person in the 1st, from a quality control point of view. So it meant that you couldn't adapt things very easily, whereas in here we can change things based on what the class needs, and we can kind of adapt materials, and even I have 2 classes in 1st year, and they're very different groups of people. So I changed the lectures, or not the lectures, but the workshops and the things to adapt to those different kind of customers, I guess. And that's nice to be able to do that. And
so do you think that working with less people is quite easier or better way to do?
I think definitely, yeah, smaller class definitely leads to a better experience, I think, for everybody. It has its challenges, and I think again it's that not taking things too personally, because you're on a very personal level. But I think it's much better.
I could say that because you have the opportunity to get to know your students better,
exactly.
And your classmates in my situation. Okay, so as a person who has already a lot of experience in the leisure industry, what type of advice would you would like to give to the people who are new in the leisure industry? For example, people like me.
My advice generally is this idea. I think you need to be critical. I think that's one thing. I think you need to kind of ask questions. and careful not to go to negativity, but you need to kind of question things that you get told. You need to say, is that true? Is that the best way to do that? Who's this person telling me this information, kind of thing? And that goes for everything. That's also when you read the news or when you listen to someone speak. I think you've got to always remember that someone's coming from their own perspective and from their angle. But the other thing is to always be honest. Honest to yourself as well as honest to other people. But it's important that if something doesn't feel right to you, that you say, no, that doesn't feel right to me, and I need to kind of go with sort of my instincts and how I feel about that. Because people will appreciate that honesty much more. You need to also turn down things that you feel you aren't able to do as well, and say to people, actually, no, sorry, that's beyond my abilities. I won't be able to do a very good job of that. So I think honesty and also sort of that critical thing.
Critical is really important. Okay, Andrew. So thank you very much for helping me with this interview. And if I meet you soon, I will let you know about the results. Would you like to ask me something or to add something at the end of the video recording?
No, I'm all right. Thanks. If you actually, what brought you to BUAS? Why this leisure studies?
Well, I can describe myself as a person who is really organized, and I have a lot of interest. I'm not interested in only one field. So I'm interested in music, cinema, maybe attractions in theme park in this situation. So I wanted to participate in different volunteer work in the first year, and just to get to know which is the best for me and to organize this kind of events. And I'm same as you. I really enjoy when I'm able to make other people happy, and I'm the reason for someone's joy. So yeah, that's the thing. It's more like the physical part of, not the physical, the psychological part of a person, and I think that's the best part of me. I'm not very into technologies or just math. I'm just really about the experience, about diversity and meeting new people, and I think this program can give it to me, and yeah, that's basically it.
So it's about kind of making people happy as well as kind of organising and getting to know people as well.
Yeah, for sure. I would like to learn about new cultures, and I think events can give me this if I have the opportunity to travel abroad and participate in a lot of different events. It could be really helpful for me.
So kind of event management is the kind of key.
Yeah,
thing,
for sure.
key
For
interest.
sure. Yeah. That's basically it.
Nice. All right.
Thank you very much.